The hologram appeared in the center of the United Earth Council chamber without warning. It was large, nearly 3 meters tall, and showed a creature that looked nothing like a human. The being had 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on its face. Its skin was dark purple and covered in small ridges. When it spoke, its voice came out in a deep rumble that made the air vibrate. "I am Ambassador General Thexelar of the Velcrin Dominion," the creature announced. "I speak for an empire that controls 2,000 star systems. I speak for a civilization that has existed for 10,000 of your years. And I speak to deliver a final warning to the species called humanity." President Jiho sat in his chair at the front of the council chamber. He was a man in his 60s with gray hair and calm eyes. He did not stand up. He did not look worried. He simply nodded at the hologram and said, "We are listening." Thexelar's 3 eyes narrowed. "Your species has committed crimes against the natural order of the galaxy. You have expanded into territories without permission. You have built colonies and systems that do not belong to you. You have refused to pay tribute to your betters. Most importantly, you have shown disrespect to the Velcrin Dominion." Around the council chamber, the representatives from Earth's nations sat quietly. Some took notes. Others watched the hologram with interest. None of them looked afraid. "The Velcrin Dominion has destroyed 17 civilizations in the past century," Thexelar continued. "Each one believed they could resist us. Each one was wrong. Our war fleet is already traveling toward your home system. In 72 hours we will arrive at Earth. You have until then to surrender unconditionally. If you do not, we will destroy every human city, every human ship, and every human colony. Your species will be erased from existence." The chamber remained quiet. President Jiho picked up a cup of tea from his desk and took a small sip. He set the cup down gently and looked at the hologram. "Thank you for the warning, Ambassador General," Jiho said. His voice was polite and friendly. 72 hours is quite short notice for such an important matter. Would it be possible to postpone your arrival by 1 week? That would give us time to prepare properly." Thexelar's 3 eyes widened. In all his years of delivering ultimatums, no species had ever responded like this. They usually begged for mercy or declared they would fight to the last soldier. They never asked for more time, as if scheduling a business meeting. "You mock us," Thexelar said, his voice growing louder. "You do not understand the power we possess. We will not delay. We will not negotiate. You will surrender, or you will die." Jiho nodded again. "I understand. Thank you for visiting with us today. We will prepare for your arrival." The hologram flickered and disappeared. The council chamber remained silent for a moment. Then one of the representatives, a woman named Haiwan, raised her hand. "Mr. President, should we begin evacuation procedures?" Jiho shook his head. "No. Tell people to continue with their normal lives. We will handle this matter through proper channels." On the moon, at the Lunar Defense Grid Station, Soldier Minho reported for his regular shift. He was 28 years old and had been working at the station for 5 years. His job was to monitor the defense satellites that protected Earth from asteroids and space debris. When he arrived at the station, his supervisor told him about the Velcrin ultimatum. Minho listened carefully and then asked, "Does this change our shift schedule?" His supervisor smiled. "No. Keep doing your job. The generals will take care of the rest." Minho nodded and went to his workstation. He had more important things to worry about. His sister Unji was getting married in 2 weeks, and he still needed to prepare his speech for the wedding ceremony. In a factory on Mars, a woman named Hijin worked the night shift building commercial starships. She was a welder, and she was very good at her job. When the news about the Velcrin ultimatum appeared on the factory screens, she barely looked up from her work. Her friend Daehyun, who worked at the next station, called over to her. "Did you hear? Aliens are coming to destroy us in 3 days." Hyejin finished welding a seam before responding. "I heard. Do you think they will cancel the company picnic next month?" Daehyun laughed. "Probably not. Management loves that picnic." They continued working. On Earth, in a research laboratory in Seoul, Scientist Doyen was annoyed. He had been working on a new type of faster-than-light communication system for 3 years. He was very close to a breakthrough. Now everyone kept interrupting him to talk about the Velcrin Dominion. His assistant, a young woman named Sora, came into the lab looking worried. "Dr. Doyen, have you heard the news?" "Yes," Doyen said without looking up from his computer. "Aliens, war, 3 days. Can we please focus on our work? This communication system could change everything if we can just solve the quantum entanglement problem." Sora blinked. "But Dr. Doyen, they are going to attack Earth." "And Earth has soldiers and generals to handle that," Doyen replied. "We are scientists. Our job is to do science. Now please check the calculations on screen 7. Across the galaxy, other species watched the human response with confusion. The Velcrin were famous for their power. Their war fleet had never been defeated. Species usually panicked when they received the ultimatum. They sent desperate diplomatic messages. They tried to evacuate their planets. They prepared for the end. Humans did none of these things. Human stock markets barely changed. A few stocks went up slightly as defense companies got more orders. Others went down slightly as vacation companies had fewer bookings. Overall, the economic impact was minimal. Human news channels talked about the Velcrin threat, but they also talked about sports, weather, and a new restaurant that had opened in Tokyo. Human recruitment centers did see more visitors. Young people came to volunteer for military service, but they did not look scared. They looked excited, like they were signing up for an adventure. At the Earth Defense Force headquarters, General Taehyung reviewed the deployment orders. He had been in the military for 40 years. He had fought in training exercises and simulations, but never in a real war. Humanity had not had a real war in 300 years. His assistant, Colonel Minji, came into his office. "General, all forces are ready. Should we move ships into defensive positions?" Taehyung thought for a moment. "Not yet. Let them come. Let them see who we are before we show them what we are." In her home outside Paris, retired Admiral Sujin watched the news. She was 83 years old and had not worn a uniform in 15 years. A news reporter called her for an interview. "Admiral Sujin, do you think humanity can survive this attack?" the reporter asked. Sujin smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knows a secret. "You are asking the wrong question," she said. "The question is not whether humanity will survive. The question is whether the Velcrin understand what they have awakened. We have spent 300 years learning to never fight each other again. We have taken all our instincts for war, all our weapons, all our tactical knowledge, and we have pointed it in one direction, outward, toward any threat that might disturb our peace." The reporter looked confused. "Are you saying we will win?" "I am saying that the Velcrin have never fought anyone like us," Sujin replied. "They have fought species who love peace because they are weak. We love peace because we know what war truly costs, and that makes us very, very dangerous." The 72 hours began counting down. Earth continued turning. People went to work, children went to school, life went on. The galaxy watched and wondered if humans were brave or simply foolish. Soon they would learn the answer. The Velcrin war fleet arrived at the edge of human space exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum. There were 500 ships in the fleet. Each ship was massive, built for destruction. They had destroyed countless worlds before. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could withstand almost anything. Fleet Commander Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was larger than Ambassador General Thexler, with scars across his purple skin from 100 battles. His 3 eyes scanned the displays showing human space ahead. "Prepare for resistance," Krell ordered. "Species always fight back when they first see our fleet. It is their nature." But as the Velcrin fleet moved forward, something strange happened. Or rather, nothing happened. Human ships continued moving through space along their normal routes. Cargo vessels carried supplies between planets. Passenger ships took tourists to Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Construction ships worked on a new space station near Saturn. The Human Traffic Control Center sent a message to the Velcrin fleet. "Welcome to human space. Please maintain a distance of at least 50 kilometers from all civilian vessels. This is for your safety and theirs." If you need directions to Earth, we can provide navigation assistance. Krell stared at the message. His tactical officer looked confused. Commander, they are treating us like regular traffic, the officer said. I can see that, Krell growled. Are there military ships preparing to attack? The tactical officer checked his screens. No, Commander. We detect some military vessels, but they are on routine patrol. They have not changed course or raised shields. This was wrong. This was all wrong. Krell had delivered ultimatums to dozens of species. They always responded in predictable ways. They either ran away in panic or charged forward in desperate attacks. They never just continued their normal business. Find me a target, Krell ordered. Something small. A colony or station. We will show them what happens to those who ignore the Velcrin Dominion. The tactical officer found a suitable target. Commander, there is a mining station near Saturn's moon Titan. It has approximately 5,000 inhabitants. Mostly miners and their families. Perfect, Krell said. Send a vanguard of 50 ships. Destroy it completely. Make sure every species in the galaxy sees what we do. The 50 ships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward Titan Station. The attack was broadcast across the galaxy through public channels. Everyone would see the Velcrin's power. Titan Station had defense platforms, as all human facilities did. When the Velcrin ships entered weapons range, the platforms activated automatically. Beams of blue energy shot out from the platforms toward the attacking ships. The Velcrin shields held at first, but the human weapons were stronger than expected. One Velcrin ship exploded, then another, then 5 more. What are these weapons? The Vanguard commander shouted. These are civilian defenses, not military. The human weapons continued firing with perfect accuracy. They did not miss. They did not hesitate. 37 Velcrin ships were destroyed before the remaining 13 ships finally overwhelmed the defense platforms. The 13 surviving ships fired on Titan Station. The station's shields failed. The weapons tore through metal and rock. 5,000 people died in seconds. The station broke apart and drifted in pieces through space. The galaxy watched in horror. The Velcrin had proven their power. Now humanity would surely panic. Now they would beg for mercy or launch desperate attacks. Instead, a message came from Earth Defense Force headquarters. It was short and simple. A woman's voice spoke calmly. This is Captain Borum of the Earth Defense Force. We acknowledge your attack on Titan Station. You have initiated hostilities against humanity. We will respond accordingly, that was all. No threats, no anger. Just a simple statement of fact. Krell felt something he had not felt in many years. Uncertainty. What do they mean by respond accordingly? His tactical officer asked. Krell did not answer. He ordered the fleet to proceed toward Earth, but things were changing in human space. Things that the Velcrin could not see yet. On Earth, General Taehyung sat in a secure command center deep underground. Around him, displays showed every human ship, station, and facility in the solar system and beyond. He pressed a button on his console. Activate Protocol Red, he said quietly. Across human space, classified facilities received the signal. Military bases that had been running at minimal capacity suddenly came to full operation. Weapon systems that had been in storage for decades were brought online. Ships that looked like ordinary cargo vessels received new orders. In orbit around Mars, factory worker Hee-Jin received a message on her work tablet. She read it once, then looked at her friend Daehyun. We are on military production now, she said. Full schedule. No breaks except for sleep. Daehyun nodded. I got the same message. What are we building? Everything, Hee-Jin replied. On the moon, Soldier Minho's supervisor called him into the office. Minho, I know your sister's wedding is in 2 weeks. You will still be able to attend, but it might be by hologram. We cannot guarantee leave right now. Minho understood. That is fine. Yoonji will understand. In Seoul, scientist Doyen finally looked up from his computer. A military officer was standing in his laboratory. Dr. Doyen, your research on faster-than-light communication has been classified as critical to national defense. We need you to finish it as quickly as possible. Doyen blinked. How quickly? Days, not months. Doyen thought for a moment. I will need my entire team working around the clock. And coffee. Lots of coffee. Done, the officer said. The changes were subtle but comprehensive. To the Velcrin fleet approaching Earth, nothing looked different. But humanity was transforming. The peaceful civilization was remembering skills it had not used in 300 years. Retired Admiral Sujin received a call from General Taehyung. Admiral, we need you back. Sujin had been expecting this. I am 83 years old. I belong in a retirement home, not on a command bridge. You belong wherever you can help us survive, Taehyung replied. We need your strategic mind. No one alive has studied warfare as deeply as you have. Sujin looked out her window at the peaceful French countryside. She had spent 15 years in this quiet place, writing books about military history, books about wars that humanity had fought against itself centuries ago, wars that had nearly destroyed the species. I will come, she said, but understand something, General. If I do this, if I help humanity fight again, we must fight the right way. We must remember why we stopped fighting each other. We must never become the monsters we defeated. Agreed, Taehyung said. Admiral Sujin put on a uniform for the first time in 15 years. It still fit. The Velcrin fleet reached Earth's orbital space. Krell expected to see panic. He expected to see desperate defenses. He expected to see the chaos of a species facing extinction. What he saw instead made his blood run cold. The orbital space around Earth was full of weapons platforms. Hundreds of them. They had not been there in the intelligence reports from just weeks ago. They were new, or they had been hidden. Either way, they were there now, and they were all pointing at his fleet. Human military ships appeared from behind the moon, from Mars' orbit, from the asteroid belt. They were not the small patrol vessels he had seen before. These were warships, real warships, and there were hundreds of them. But the most disturbing thing was how they moved. The human ships did not rush forward in wild charges. They did not scatter in panic. They moved with perfect coordination, taking positions that created overlapping fields of fire. They moved like pieces on a game board, played by a master strategist. Commander, the tactical officer said, his voice shaking slightly. Our intelligence was wrong. Very wrong. Krell looked at the displays. He had 500 ships. The humans had fewer, perhaps 300. But the humans had the advantage of position. They had the defense platforms, and they had something else. They had the calm confidence of people who knew exactly what they were doing. A message came from the lead human ship. This is Admiral Sujin of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered our home system with hostile intent. You have already killed 5,000 of our people. We are giving you one opportunity to withdraw. Power down your weapons and retreat beyond the orbit of Neptune. We will allow you to leave in peace, Krell laughed. It was a bitter, angry laugh. We are the Velcrin Dominion. We do not retreat. We do not surrender. Attack. Destroy them all. The Velcrin fleet surged forward. 500 ships against 300. The numbers favored Krell. But numbers were not everything. The human weapons fired first. And when they fired, the Velcrin finally understood their mistake. The battle began with light. Hundreds of blue energy beams crossed the black space between the human and Velcrin fleets. The beams moved at the speed of light, and they struck with terrible accuracy. Velcrin shields flared bright purple as they absorbed the energy. The shields held. They were strong, built from technology developed over thousands of years. Commander Krell smiled. His ships could take this punishment. Then the second wave of weapons hit. These were not energy beams. They were physical projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Railgun rounds made of super-dense metal. When they hit the Velcrin shields, they did not stop. They punched through. 20 Velcrin ships exploded in the first 30 seconds. Impossible, Krell shouted. Our shields can stop anything. His tactical officer was frantically checking readings. Commander, their weapons are different. The energy beams weaken our shields. Then the physical rounds break through before the shields can recover. It is a two-stage attack system. Krell had never seen anything like it. Most species used either energy weapons or physical weapons, never both in perfect coordination. Return fire, he ordered. All ships maximum power. The Velcrin fleet fired back. Their weapons were powerful, designed to crack planets. The beams shot toward the human ships. Surely these attacks would destroy the smaller human vessels. But the human ships moved. They did not stay in one place like the Velcrin ships. They dodged and weaved through space, using their engine thrust to change direction constantly. Most of the Velcrin shots missed completely. The few shots that did hit struck the human shields. The shields held. They were not stronger than Velcrin shields, but they did not need to be. The human ships simply avoided most of the incoming fire. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Sujin watched the battle displays with calm eyes. She had studied every major battle in human history, She had read about the wars that had nearly destroyed humanity centuries ago. She had learned from them. Target their command ships, she ordered. Hit their communication centers. Blind them. The human fleet adjusted its fire. Instead of spreading attacks across the entire Velcrin fleet, they focused on specific ships. The ones with the most communication equipment. The ones that were coordinating the Velcrin attack. 12 more Velcrin ships exploded. The Velcrin formation began to fall apart as commanders lost contact with each other. In one of the human warships, Captain Junho commanded his crew. His ship had been a mining vessel just 2 weeks ago. Now it was covered in weapons that had been hidden in storage facilities across the solar system. Junho, 3 enemy ships targeting us, his wife Nari said from the tactical station. She pointed at the display, coming from above. Junho nodded to his engineer. Jaewon, how are the engines? Running at 90%, Jaewon replied. We can push to 100 if you need it. Do it, Junho said calmly. The ship accelerated, moving away from the incoming Velcrin fire. At the same time, Nari fired the ship's railguns at a different Velcrin vessel. The rounds hit true. Another enemy ship was destroyed. Junho, Nari, and Jaewon had all done military service, as every human did. But they had spent the last decade in peaceful jobs. Unyo had mined asteroids. Nari had been a teacher. Jaewon had run a small restaurant. Now they fought with the calm skill of people who had trained for this their whole lives, but hoped never to use it. This was true across the entire human fleet. Every captain, every soldier, every crew member had spent years in military training. Then they had gone home to live peaceful lives. They had built things, taught children, cooked food, written books, and raised families, but they had never forgotten their training. And now when their home was threatened, they remembered everything. The battle lasted 2 hours. It felt longer to Krell. Every minute, more of his ships were destroyed. His fleet of 500 was down to 300, then 200, then 100. The human fleet had lost ships too, but not many. Perhaps 30 or 40. Their strategy was too good. Their coordination was too perfect. Their weapons were too effective. Commander, we must retreat, Krell's tactical officer said. If we stay, we will all die. Krell wanted to refuse. The Velcrin Dominion had never retreated, but he was watching his fleet die around him. He was watching an empire's reputation crumble. All ships fall back, he ordered quietly. Retreat to Neptune orbit. The surviving Velcrin ships turned and ran. They expected the human ships to chase them, to finish the destruction. That was what conquerors did. That was what the Velcrin would have done. But the human fleet stopped at the edge of Earth's orbital space. They did not pursue. They maintained their defensive positions. Then a message came from a human ship. A young woman's voice spoke clearly. This is Lieutenant Yuna of the Earth Defense Force. We have medical supplies and rescue equipment available. If you have wounded who need assistance, we can provide aid. Power down your weapons and we will send medical ships to help. Krell stared at the communication screen. This made no sense. The humans had won. They should be demanding surrender. They should be destroying the fleeing ships. They should not be offering help to the enemy. It is a trick, his tactical officer said. They want us to lower our shields so they can attack. But Krell was not sure. He looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was not moving. They were just waiting. 50 of his ships were badly damaged. Thousands of his soldiers were wounded or dying. Pride said to refuse. Logic said to accept. Pride won. No, we retreat with our weapons active. We will not accept help from these creatures. The Velcrin fleet continued its retreat. The human ships followed at a distance, far enough to not threaten but close enough to observe, like shepherds watching wolves leave the flock. On Earth, life was already returning to normal. The battle had lasted 2 hours. People had watched it on news screens. Some had been scared. Some had been excited. But when it ended with a human victory, most people just went back to their regular activities. Minho attended his sister's wedding by hologram. He wore his military uniform and gave his speech from his station on the moon. Yoonji cried happy tears and told him she was proud of him. Her new husband, a man named Youngho, thanked Minho for protecting Earth. I just did my job, Minho said with a shrug. In the Mars factory, Hyejin continued welding. The factory was producing military ships around the clock now. But the work was the same. Metal to metal, making things that would protect people. She was good at it, and that was enough. In Seoul, scientist Do-yoon finally completed his faster-than-light communication system. It had taken him 3 years and 4 sleepless days to finish. The military immediately classified it and installed it on every human ship. Now human forces could communicate instantly across any distance. It gave them an enormous advantage in coordination and strategy. Do-yoon was happy his research was useful. But he was also annoyed that he could not publish a paper about it. This would have won awards, he muttered. The Velkrin fleet reached Neptune's orbit and stopped. They were far from Earth now, safe from immediate attack, but they were not safe from the truth. The truth was simple and terrible. The Velkrin Dominion was not invincible. They had met a species that could defeat them, a species that had better weapons, better tactics, and better training. But the most frightening thing about humans was not their military power. It was their attitude. Krell reviewed the battle recordings. He watched how the human ships moved, how they fought. They did not fight with the passion of warriors seeking glory. They did not fight with the hatred of beings seeking revenge. They fought like people doing a job, a necessary, unpleasant job that needed to be done correctly. And when the job was done, they stopped. They offered medical help to their enemies. They did not chase the fleeing ships to destroy them completely. Krell realized something that filled him with dread. The humans were not fighting to conquer. They were not fighting for territory or resources or glory. They were fighting only to protect their home. And once their home was safe, they stopped. This meant the humans had no interest in destroying the Velkrin Dominion. They only wanted to be left alone. But it also meant that if the Velkrin attacked again, the humans would respond again, and next time they might not stop at Earth's orbit. Send a message to the Empire, Krell ordered. Tell them we need reinforcements. Many reinforcements, his tactical officer hesitated. Commander, if we ask for reinforcements, the Empire will know we failed. They will know we were defeated. They will find out anyway, Krell said bitterly. Every species in the galaxy watched that battle. Our reputation is already destroyed. Now we must decide whether to accept defeat or call for more ships. Krell made his decision. Call for more ships. We will regroup. We will study these humans, and we will find their weakness. But deep inside, Krell wondered if humans had a weakness. They seemed to have thought of everything. Their technology was advanced. Their tactics were perfect. Their training was comprehensive, and most terrifying of all, they fought not from fear or hatred but from calm determination. The galaxy watched the battle's end. Species that had suffered under Velkrin rule for centuries felt something they had not felt in a long time. Hope. If humanity could defeat the Velkrin, perhaps freedom was possible. The war had only just begun. News of the human victory traveled across the galaxy faster than light. Species that had lived under Velkrin rule for generations watched the battle recordings in amazement. The impossible had happened. The Velkrin Dominion had been defeated. On Earth, Admiral Sujin called a meeting with the United Earth Council. She stood before President Jiho and the other representatives with a serious expression. The Velkrin fleet has retreated, but they have not surrendered, Sujin said. They will call for reinforcements. They will regroup, and they will attack again. President Jiho nodded. What do you recommend, Admiral? Sujin pulled up a map of the galaxy on the main display. It showed 2,000 star systems marked in purple. The Velkrin Dominion. The Velkrin maintain control through fear, Sujin explained. But their actual military strength is spread thin across all these systems. They have never faced an opponent who could strike back effectively. If we act now before they can reorganize, we can end this war permanently. A representative named Kyungo raised his hand. Are you suggesting we attack them? That seems aggressive. We have always been a defensive species. I am suggesting we liberate the species they have enslaved, Sujin replied. The Velkrin Empire is not strong. It is a house of cards held up by reputation alone. We have knocked down the first card. If we push further, the entire structure will collapse. The council debated for 6 hours. Some representatives argued that humanity should stay home and defend Earth. Others argued that this was an opportunity to end the Velkrin threat forever. President Jiho listened to all arguments. Finally, he spoke. The Velkrin came to our home to exterminate us. They killed 5,000 of our people at Titan Station. If we do nothing, they will come back. If we go to them, we can end this war and free billions of beings who suffer under their rule. He looked around the room. I vote we go. Who agrees? The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would take the war to the Velkrin. Task Force Commander Seokjin was given command of the expedition. He was 50 years old and had spent most of his career commanding cargo ships. But like all humans, he had extensive military training. Now he would use it. His task force consisted of 300 ships. Most were converted civilian vessels. The crews were volunteers. Teachers, engineers, factory workers, farmers, pilots, and doctors. People who had put their regular lives on hold to serve humanity. Before the fleet departed, Seokjin gave a speech to his commanders via video link. "We are not going to conquer the Velkrin Empire," he said. "We are going to free the people trapped within it. We will fight only when necessary. We will kill only when we must. And when the war is over, we will come home. That is our mission. That is our purpose." The human task force entered Velkrin space 3 weeks after the battle at Earth. Their first target was a system called Kelvar 7 Intelligence. Reports showed it was a mining system where the Velkrin had enslaved the native population. The Velkrin garrison at Kelvar 7 consisted of 20 military ships and 1 orbital station. When the human fleet arrived, the Velkrin commander immediately sent a distress signal to the nearest Velkrin military base. Then, he prepared to fight. He had 20 ships against 300. He knew he would lose. But Velkrin soldiers did not surrender. The battle lasted 15 minutes. All 20 Velkrin ships were destroyed. The orbital station tried to fire on human ships but was disabled quickly. 0 human ships were lost. Colonel Minji led the ground forces that landed on Kelvar 7. She was a schoolteacher from Seoul who had served in the military reserves. Her soldiers were similarly mixed. Regular people who knew how to fight when necessary. They found the mining operations guarded by Velkrin soldiers. The soldiers refused to surrender. They fought until every one of them was dead. They preferred death to the shame of surrender. Minji found this wasteful and sad, but she understood. The Velkrin culture valued strength above all else. Surrender meant weakness, and weakness meant dishonor. When the fighting ended, Minji met with the native Kelvarite leaders. They were a species that looked like large insects with multiple arms and compound eyes. They had been forced to mine valuable metals for the Velkrin for 3 generations. The eldest Kelvarite leader, whose name translated to Stone Who Endures, approached Minji cautiously. "Are you the new masters?" Minji shook her head. "No, we are not your masters. We are humans, and we believe every species should be free to govern themselves. The Velkrin are gone. This world is yours again." Stone Who Endures did not believe her at first. "What tribute do you demand?" "None," Minji said. "We ask only that you do not attack us or our allies. Beyond that, this is your world. Do with it as you wish." Before leaving, the human forces left behind medical supplies, food, and communication equipment. Lieutenant Daehyun, who had been a restaurant owner before the war, helped set up a kitchen to feed the freed workers. "I cannot give you much," Daehyun said as he prepared simple meals. "But everyone deserves a warm meal after hard times." The Kelvarites watched in confusion and growing hope. These humans truly seemed different. The human task force moved to the next system. And the next, the pattern repeated. Human ships would arrive. The Velkrin garrison would fight and lose. The humans would free the enslaved population and then leave. No conquest, no demands for tribute, just liberation. Word spread through the Velkrin Empire faster than the human fleet could travel. Enslaved species began to whisper about the humans, about the impossible species that defeated the Velkrin and asked nothing in return. Some species rebelled before the humans even arrived. When they heard humans were coming to their system, they rose up against their Velkrin masters. Often, by the time the human fleet arrived, the system had already freed itself. The Velkrin military tried to respond, but they were stretched too thin. They had built an empire on fear and intimidation, not actual military superiority. When faced with a real threat, their weaknesses showed. Emperor Thexelor, the same being who had delivered the first ultimatum to Earth, watched his empire collapse from his throne world. System after system was lost. His generals reported failure after failure. How can one species destroy an empire that has existed for 10,000 years? Thexelor demanded. His chief advisor, a being named Vexnor, had studied the humans carefully. "They are not destroying the empire, my emperor. They are liberating it. Every species we have conquered now sees hope. They see that resistance is possible. We built our empire on the belief that we were invincible. The humans have proven that belief false. Then we must prove we are still strong, Thexler said. Call all our forces back to the core systems. We will make a stand at our throne world. Let the humans come. We will destroy them there. But even as Thexler gave this order, he felt doubt. The humans had defeated every Velcrin force they encountered. They had better weapons, better tactics, and something else. Something harder to define. They had purpose. They were not fighting for conquest or glory. They were fighting for an idea. The idea that all species deserved freedom. And ideas, Thexler realized, were harder to defeat than armies. On one of the human ships, Dr. Inhai worked as a xenopsychologist. Her job was to understand the minds of alien species. She studied the freed populations and noticed a troubling pattern. She sent a report to Admiral Sujin. Admiral, the liberated species are grateful, but they are also afraid. They fear we are simply replacing one empire with another. They do not believe we will truly leave. Admiral Sujin read the report carefully. She called a meeting with Commander Seokjin and the other senior officers. We need to prove our intentions, Sujin said. We need to show the galaxy that we mean what we say. We are liberators, not conquerors. How do we prove that? Seokjin asked. We prepare to leave, Sujin replied. We announce our intention to withdraw from all Velcrin space once the threat is neutralized. We make it clear that we have no interest in territory or control. The announcement was made across all communication channels. Humanity would fight until the Velcrin military was defeated. Then they would go home. The galaxy did not believe it at first. Empires did not give up territory. Conquerors did not simply leave. It went against every pattern of behavior seen in galactic history, but the humans seemed serious. They were already preparing withdrawal plans. They were establishing communication networks so the freed species could govern themselves. They were teaching rather than controlling. Slowly, the galaxy began to realize that humans truly were different. They were not building an empire. They were dismantling one. The human task force continued its advance toward the Velcrin throne world. Behind them, they left freed worlds and astonished populations. Ahead of them, they faced the gathered might of what remained of the Velcrin military. The final battle was approaching. But the outcome of the war was already decided. The Velcrin Empire was not beaten by superior force. It was beaten by an idea. The idea that peace was worth fighting for, that freedom was more powerful than fear, that a species could be strong without being cruel. Humanity had learned these lessons through centuries of fighting themselves. Now they were teaching them to the galaxy. The final battle did not happen on the Velcrin throne world. Instead, it happened at a negotiating table in neutral space. Emperor Thexler sat across from President Jiho. Between them was a simple table with documents spread across its surface. Around them, representatives from dozens of species watched through holographic displays. The galaxy wanted to see how this war would end. Thexler looked old and tired. His 3 eyes were dim. His purple skin had lost its luster. The empire he ruled was in ruins. Most of his systems had been liberated. His military was scattered. He had nothing left to bargain with. You have won, Thexler said quietly. State your terms for our surrender. Jiho picked up a document and slid it across the table. These are our terms. Please read them, Thexler read slowly. His eyes widened as he went through each point. When he finished, he looked at Jiho with confusion. I do not understand. You ask for no territory? No tribute? No submission? That is correct, Jiho said calmly. We want only 3 things. First, the Velcrin dominion must be dissolved. All subjugated species must be granted independence. Second, the Velcrin people will keep their core systems to rebuild as a peaceful society. Third, human observers will remain for 1 generation to ensure compliance, then leave. Thexler stared at the document. In his entire life, he had never heard of such terms. When his empire conquered others, they took everything. Land, resources, freedom. They left the conquered with nothing. Why? Thexler asked. You have the power to take everything. Why do you give us mercy? Jiho leaned forward. His eyes were serious but not cruel. Because we remember what it was like when we fought each other. Humans once built empires too. We conquered and enslaved and killed. We nearly destroyed ourselves over dirt and pride and resources we could have shared. He paused, letting his words sink in. We learned that peace is not weakness. Peace is the hardest thing to maintain and the most precious thing we have. We will not give it up by becoming what we once destroyed. We will not become you. Thexler felt something he had not felt before. Shame. Not shame at losing the war. Shame at what his empire had been. Shame at the suffering his people had caused across the galaxy. And if we refuse these terms, Thexler asked, though he already knew the answer. Then we will continue fighting until you accept them, Jiho said simply. We do not want to kill you, but we will protect the freedom of all species, including yours. Thexler picked up the document again. He read it once more. Then he signed it with a trembling hand. The war was over. The treaty was announced across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Velcrin rule for generations celebrated. Some cried, some sang. Some simply stood in silence, unable to believe they were truly free. Within weeks, human forces began withdrawing from Velcrin space. They left behind communication systems, medical supplies, and knowledge. But they took no territory. They demanded no payment. They simply went home. Soldier Minho returned to Earth after 6 months away. His sister Yunji met him at the spaceport with her husband Youngho and their new baby daughter. The baby was named Minji after Minho. Thank you for protecting us, Yunji said, hugging her brother tightly. I just did my job, Minho replied. He had said this many times now. He believed it. Protecting Earth had been his job, and he had done it well. Now his job was over, and he could go back to his regular life. He returned to work at the lunar defense grid. The station was quieter now. Most of the emergency systems had been powered down. The war was over and peace had returned. Factory worker Hyejin converted her workspace back to building civilian ships. The military orders had stopped. Now she was building cargo vessels and passenger ships again, ships that would carry goods and people across human space and beyond. Her friend Daehyun had gone back to running his restaurant. But now he had customers from many different species, Kelverites and others who had been freed from Velcrin rule. They came to Earth to see the species that had liberated them. Daehyun served them all with the same care he showed human customers. Everyone deserves good food, he said with a smile. Scientist Doyun's faster-than-light communication system was finally declassified. He published his research and won several awards, but he was most proud that his invention was being shared with other species. The galaxy was becoming more connected, and his work helped make that possible. Captain Borum, who had sent that first calm message after Titan Station was destroyed, retired from the military. He opened a restaurant in Seoul. It became popular with both humans and aliens. One day, a Velcrin customer came in. The customer was nervous, clearly expecting to be turned away. But Borum seated the Velcrin at a good table and took his order personally. Why do you serve me? The Velcrin asked. My people killed humans. We tried to destroy your species. Borum thought for a moment. Your empire did those things. But you did not. You are just a person trying to live your life like everyone else. Besides, the war is over. If we cannot forgive and move forward, what was the point of fighting? The Velcrin customer ate his meal in silence. When he left, he thanked Borum quietly. It was a small moment, but it represented something larger. The galaxy was healing. The Velcrin people struggled to adapt to their new reality. For 10,000 years, they had been conquerors. Now they had to learn to be neighbors instead of masters. It was hard. Many Velcrin felt humiliated by their defeat, but slowly some began to see the opportunity. Young Velcrin, who had never wanted to be part of an empire, learned new skills. They became traders, scientists, artists, and diplomats. They built relationships with the species their ancestors had enslaved. It would take generations for the Velcrin to truly change. But the process had begun. 5 years after the war ended, a monument was built at Titan Station. The station had been rebuilt, bigger and better than before. The monument listed every person who had died in the war, humans and aliens alike. The inscription was simple. They died so others could live in peace. May we prove worthy of their sacrifice. Minho attended the dedication ceremony with his sister's family. Little Minji was 5 years old now. She asked her uncle what the monument meant. It means that peace is important, Minho said. It means that sometimes we have to fight to protect it. But we only fight so that people like you can grow up safe and happy. Minji thought about this seriously. Will there be another war? Maybe, Minho said honestly. But we will always try to avoid it. And if war comes, we will face it like we always do, together. Across the galaxy, new alliances formed. The freed species created their own governments. Some formed federations, others preferred independence, but they all maintained contact with each other and with humanity. Trade routes opened up between hundreds of worlds. Cultural exchanges became common. A Kelverite scientist worked with a human researcher to develop new medical treatments. A former Velcrin soldier taught martial arts to human students, finding peace in sharing knowledge instead of making war. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts. Pirates raided trade routes. Some worlds had civil disputes. Crime existed everywhere as it always had, but the great fear was gone. The Velcrin Dominion had been the galaxy's nightmare for 10,000 years. Now that nightmare was over, General Taehyung gave a final address before retiring. He stood before the assembled human military forces at a ceremony on Earth. "We did not fight this war to win," he said. "We fought it so everyone could go home. We fought it so every species, including our former enemies, could have what we have. The freedom to choose peace." He paused and looked at the soldiers before him. "You are all heroes. Not because you killed enemies, not because you won battles, but because you fought only when necessary, and you stopped as soon as possible. You remembered that our goal was peace, not conquest." The soldiers saluted. Then they went home to their families, their jobs, their regular lives. Admiral Sujin returned to her home in France. She was 88 years old now. She had done her part. She had helped humanity survive and had ensured they won the war the right way. A reporter interviewed her one last time. "Admiral, what do you want people to remember about this war?" Sujin thought carefully before answering. "I want them to remember that the scariest species is not the one that loves war. It is the species that understands peace so deeply that when they finally do go to war, they do it with complete focus. We did not fight from hatred or ambition. We fought because everyone deserves to live without fear, and that is a cause worth fighting for." On Earth, life continued. Humans built new things, explored new places, created art, and raised children. They maintained their military, but it remained in the background. A sword sheathed until needed. The galaxy watched humanity with respect and wonder. These strange beings who had ended an empire not with cruelty but with conviction. Who had proven that strength without compassion was weakness, and that true power came from knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. President Jiho, now elderly and near the end of his term, gave his final speech to the United Earth Council. "We have shown the galaxy who we are," he said. "We are not conquerors. We are not empire builders. We are humans. We make mistakes. We struggle. We fight when we must, but we always choose peace when we can." He looked at the representatives before him. "That is our gift to the galaxy. Not our weapons, not our technology,